This is a story that I broke called FBI Bug Revealed as Rain Leaks In.
Denny Brand, a retired journalist, worked in television news for 25 years, breaking and covering the biggest stories from Youngstown, Ohio to Laredo, Texas.
There was a mafia-owned restaurant in the Youngstown area where the mafia used to meet once a month at this restaurant. And the FBI knew that, and the FBI put a bug in the ceiling of the restaurant, and they were monitoring this meeting every month. And when the mob met, they brought in all the city officials in the area and told them, hey, you're going to do this, or you're going to do that, or you're going to give our guys the contracting job, or you're going to, give the so-and-so the, contract, or you arrested our guy last week, that evidence is going to disappear. And that's what happened. Well, the ceiling of this restaurant started leaking because it was raining. And the mob guys went up on the roof and they found the bugs up there, and there was a standoff. The FBI wanted their bug back, and the mob wouldn't give it back. Well, eventually they did have to give it back. I reported a story on that. It was an exclusive story, and that was my first face-to-face meeting with a mobster.
He's not chasing many stories nowadays, and certainly keeps encounters with mobsters, if any, limited. Brand caught his first big story in Laredo, Texas, which rests on the Mexican border.
First big story I covered down there, actually there were a couple. One, a theater ceiling collapse. People were attending a movie theater, and this was in Mexico, and the theater collapsed, and a bunch of people were injured. And so my photographer and I ran across the river. It was like 11 o'clock at night, and as soon as we got across the river, we were in a different country, and of course we knew that, and they were telling us what we could shoot and what we couldn't shoot and that kind of thing. So we were bumping up against trying to cover news in a foreign country.
Originally pursuing sports broadcasting at WKU, Brand found a love for news and telling hard-hitting stories.
I think as a journalist, you can affect people's lives, and I'm not talking about the journalism we're doing now necessarily, but uncovering corruption, people that have been scammed, getting justice for people who have been scammed, just covering news events. I can go and cover things where the normal person wouldn't be there. I've covered hurricanes and tornadoes and blizzards and that kind of thing. So I like being in the know, being there on the scene, and basically bringing the information back to the average person who couldn't be there.
Whether it was a politician's office, a football field, or someone's yard, he was there. I
think you have to suspect everybody. You have to look at all the facts. They always say, well, there's two sides to every story. No, there might be four sides to the story. You have to go out and talk to people. You can't just go talk to officials. Yeah, I could go talk to the police chief in a small town, but the police chief may have a motive. He may be covering something up. He may perfectly legit, who knows? So you have to go knock on the door to people's houses and go, hey, what happened here today? People will tell you stuff that all you have to do is ask them. You got to knock on the door. But if you just accept what the authorities are going to tell you, you're not going to get the full story. And that's something that reporters don't do these days.
As a journalist and journalism educator, Brand says one aspect of being a successful reporter is this.
Well, if you want to be a reporter, you got to have one thing. Not looks, and not, the greatest writer in the world, and not the greatest voice in the world. You need one attribute, and that's curiosity. And if you're not curious about something, like what happened here, when did that happen, why did it happen? If you're not curious, forget about it. You can be on TV, but you can't be a good journalist. You just have to have curiosity.
And what would eventually win him an Emmy was a tragic story involving the death of a teenager in Kansas City, Missouri. The teen's mother would only speak to one reporter, and that was Denny Brand.
The story that spawned the series was a young kid, 13, 14 years, I forget how old he was, might say in the story. And he was getting off a school bus, and his drawstring jacket got caught in the handrail of the bus, and the bus door closed, and he was running along the bus. He was on the outside of the bus beating on the door and telling the bus driver to stop, and the bus driver did stop, and the boy tripped, and he was run over by his own school bus and died. And his mother settled the case. I think he was 14 years old maybe, and she got $1 million for each year of his life, but it wasn't enough. That was her only son. It was in the inner city, and she would have given anything to get the kid back, and she would never talk to any reporters, but I convinced her to talk to me. And so we did a story, and that was the lead story, but we did 24 other episodes, and we got things changed. The state of Missouri had to go back and relicense all the school bus drivers, check all their backgrounds, which they didn't do the first time. So that was a big, impactful story.
Speaking of schools, he has coached several years worth of football. He most recently coached 5 years at Barron County High School.
So I have, kids that I coached over the years that are, men today, and you hope that you taught them how to be people, how to be kind to people and work together and do that kind of thing. So I enjoyed coaching. I coached high school baseball, football for a long time, and I enjoyed every minute of that.
This is Denny Brand, and this has been Meet My Neighbor.
The Glasgow Police Department, we strongly believe in outreach and getting involved with our community.
Obviously, we're doing more than just out in the community writing tickets. We're here for the community when they call for help.
We deal with medical patients, we deal with all kinds of sorts of things and all kinds of different people.
I enjoy getting the calls of, hey, I need gas, can you bring me a gas can?
We're always involved in stuff and just trying to invest in our community and make it better.
Glasgow's always been my home. This is where I was born and raised, and this is where I'll stay.